Hi, what is up, everyone, and welcome back to The Biblical Hitman. It's your host, Stephen. Who I have in the show, ladies and gentlemen, is Allan Paul Roberts. He's a gentleman that is an author, and he's also a researcher. He's been doing this for a very long time, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty like we do in every episode, folks. But if it's your first time or you're returning, make sure you hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Support the show. It's free. And while you're there, drop a comment, like, and share. Drop comments, folks. I encourage that with the audience because that's the only place I get to directly engage with everyone, and I try to do it as best as I can. If you're not on the video side of things, head on over to the audio. Where we're at is Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and Spotify, but we're pretty much on everything. But those are the three main outlets that, a lot of people in the population actually just tend to use more than anything. But while you're there, 5-star reviews, folks. If you like the show, drop a comment as well and hit that notification bell. But Allan, brother, welcome to the show.
Oh, so great to be here, Stephen. Looking forward to the discussion.
Yes. So I've seen your content. I've seen some of the shows you've been on. Man, do you talk about a lot of the things I have a great interest in, which this is going to be a really awesome show. If you wouldn't mind, for the audience that's not familiar with you, if you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and where they can support you the most.
Sure. So, I'm a businessman. I own a small business. Came up through the marketing world and the operations world. Left the big corporate world in 2011. Started my own marketing firm, and that's what I've been doing ever since. 2024, I had the inspiration to write a book, The Globalist Plan to Collapse Everything to Usher in a New World Order. Been talking a lot about that online with folks, and you can learn all about that at globalcollapsebook.com, globalcollapsebook.com, and from there you can get links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and also if you want a signed copy, it's about the same price as a unsigned copy, real close to the retail price, and I'll ship it to you. So check it out, globalcollapsebook.com.
Awesome. I love reading books. I can't wait to get a copy of myself. For myself. It's something that I've been doing. It's just a new thing I've been getting into ever since I've been interviewing guests and going down the research route. I'm really trying to collect a bunch of golden nuggets from everyone that comes across this show. But it's also taken me away from being consumed into my telephone, right? It's like everyone nowadays is so consumed with the dopamine rush and all of this stuff with social media that reading has brought me back to the good old days. So, but real quick, man, I wanted to ask you what got you into, writing the book?
Yeah, well, what happened was at 4 a.m. in late April of 2024 last year, I just woke up, nothing special, laying on my pillow for 30 seconds before I get up to, run to the bathroom. Laying there, and I had this intense experience of, I call it an instant knowing, something I've never had before. But I had this experience of like an intense instant knowing of 6 pillars of society that were all under attack in America and the Western world, but primarily America, under attack and in danger of falling. And I didn't know what was happening to take them down, but I knew they were all being worked on. And I just knew that they were at different levels of danger, but they were all systematically being worked on to bring down the country. And I was blown away by it. I mean, the experience lasted somewhere between half a minute and 2 minutes. It's really hard to judge time when something like that's going on, but it was almost like electric. It was just like a knowing, an energy that it's really hard to describe because it doesn't happen in your normal life. So I was blown away by that, got up, wrote those down on some paper I keep in the bathroom with a pen there, and I wrote them down, tried to go back to sleep. 2 minutes later, 3 more, the same way, 3 different pillars of society. And I'm like, whoa, what is this? And got up and wrote them down. Same thing, tried to go back to bed. So now I got 9, 6 and 3. And a couple minutes later, 2 more. And I almost like ripped the covers off, jump out of bed. What is going on? Write these down. And, I like to explain to people that I am a prayerful person. I have a daily prayer routine, significant amount of time, typically an hour or more first thing most mornings is just prayer, silent meditation, just trying to get a sense of what the day's about and, asking God to help me. I wouldn't say I'm a real religious person, but I do have that routine, and I've had it for over 20 years. And so that's kind of like my bedrock. I don't do anything until that's done each day. Um, but the most I've had is an intuition from that. Like, you should help somebody, you should make up with somebody, there's something you should do. Even little things like maybe you need to call this person for some business thing that you forgot to get back to them on, little things, but nothing dramatic. This thing was unlike anything I'd ever experienced in 20 years. This was almost like a knowledge transfer. Um, and so after the last one happened, I'm like, God, why are you showing me this? This isn't a religious topic. This is very like political, cultural. It's like why? And no answer there. And I just keep puzzling, like why? And then I said, do you want me to write a book about this? And if you want me to write a book, what would the title be? And as soon I couldn't even finish that thought, title B, in the whole title, and it's a long title, The Globalist Plan to Collapse Everything to Usher in a New World Order. And I'm thinking, okay, that's bold. That's way bolder than a title I would pick, because that it is so bold that a lot of people would pass that by. But I stuck with it, and there it is there. Um, I stuck with the title because I felt like that's what I was given. And I thought, okay, you want me to research these 11 pillars of society and find the proof of what I just saw, that they're coming down and we got to do something about it or they will come down. And so
Yes.
I spent the summer, from May through the end of August. I started off with 8 nights at the beach. My wife and I went away just so I could have time to just do nothing but this. Went out for breakfast, wrote and researched all day. Went out for dinner, wrote and researched till 11 at night. Woke up, did the same thing for 8 days. That kicked it off. And then after that, it was every weekend, all weekend, from early Saturday morning till 11 o'clock Sunday night. Every weekend and a lot of weeknights, and just I was blitzing it, and I was so motivated because I felt like I had been given the task. I really believed in my heart that I had been given the task, and that gave me the drive to really go after it. So I was shocked by a lot of what I found. Um, we are a lot closer than we think, to it all coming down. I think the current administration is doing some things that are defending against it. One of the most obvious, the first collapse point is actually the borders. And mind you, this was before the current administration was in. So, this was 2024 summer when I got this. But one of the pillars is national borders. Number 2 is security and police protection. Number 3 is privacy. 4 is banking and finance. 5 is education. 6 is energy. 7, environment. 8, medical system. 9, food supply. 10, self-identity. And 11, faith. And these are all pillars of a free, complex society. And, you take these away, it's all coming down. And, but why would they want to take it down? The answer is what they've been telling us for at least since George Bush Sr. was saying it, the New World Order. He said it like 3 dozen times. He talked about a New World Order that they want to bring about, but when you learn and dig into it, all kinds of people from the World Economic Forum and many other sources speak openly about things that relate to that. Even the World Economic Forum, their famous statement, it's 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And the thing about it is they really mean it. We don't think they're serious, but they do mean it.
They do. They do. And when I've
Yeah.
been, so a part of my research right now has been kind of connecting a lot of dots that may be behind the scene. I'm into what the entities have been telling humanity for a very long time. We know that through cultures and civilizations, and it's a part of our history as a human race, that we've had some sort of interaction with disembodied spirits, little g gods, whatever you want to call it. And a big part of the narrative is to rebuild a society. And I think maybe with what you saw, right, the destruction of this is in their mind the rebuilding of this society, this some sort of this idea of utopia or Atlantis, right? There's like this idea that they've been sharing with cult members, right? Alien cult members, people that believe that, the Space Brothers are going to come back down and evangelize us one day, that these entities tell these messiahs that run these cults that I want you to go around to all of the nations, go around to all of the governments, tell them our ideas and tell them our plans so that you can start to build this utopia so that when it's built in our day, maybe not in our lifetime, but it could be, I don't know, it's getting kind of weird. Then they'll be able to come back. But I just wanted to throw that in there because it's something very fascinating I've been connecting some dots with.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. I try to stick with, for the sake of the book, I try to stick with their own writings. The byline is in their own words. So I try to stick to what they're telling us or what other people who are close to them are telling us that they're doing. They tend to be very secretive about it because, of course, they don't want everybody to know. But a lot of it is kind of hidden in plain view.
Right.
And it's almost like they seem to enjoy that fact that it's kind of hidden in plain view, almost like if we don't catch on, it's our own fault, and they have the right to rule us because we didn't do anything about it.
Right, right. Real quick, man, before we get into the pillars and more deeper conversation with that, could you kind of recreate this dream for us? That you saw, maybe give some details, what exactly, the images or just the experience, if you can kind of walk us through that.
So I was wide awake.
Oh
And
man, that's crazy.
yeah, I was totally wide awake, and it wasn't visual. The Bible says in the end times, what is it? Your young men will see visions. Well, I didn't see a vision, and your old men will dream dreams. And I didn't. It wasn't a dream, but it was something in between the two. Maybe I'm not quite an old man yet. I don't know, but I'm definitely not a young man. So God maybe gave me something right in between. I don't know, but I'm just joking about that. But the point was that in the end times, the spiritual world will be more prominent. In other words, like God through His Holy Spirit will release His Spirit more and more. And He even says, even your handmaidens will prophesy. In other words, the people we think of as lowly, or that society thinks of as lowly, even those people will. God was trying to make the point He's going to pour out His Spirit more and more as we get closer to the end. And so anyway, I had that experience, and what it was like was, um, people say, "Well, was it a download?" And I think a download is probably the closest metaphor we have to it. So if you've seen the movie The Matrix, have you seen that where, um, yeah, I forget what's her name, Trinity. She says, "I need to know how to fly this whatever model military helicopter it is," and she goes, "Wait," and then about takes about 3 seconds that she's got
Yeah.
it. Now all of a sudden she knows it, or jujitsu or whatever it is. And but the thing is that took some time. This was this was all there immediately, simultaneously, front to back, all completely there. It was just like, bam, now you know it, and you keep knowing it. It's like if somebody turns a light on and shines it in your eyes, you're feeling that light, and you're feeling it until the light goes off, and then it's gone and you can remember it. But it's not like the sensation of that light hitting you. This knowledge was almost hitting me with energy. It was intense. It was very intense. And unlike normal life or normal knowledge, if you had 6 people talking to you about 6 different things, you could kind of hear the side conversation, but you could only really listen to one at a time, or maybe 2 if you're really good at multitasking. I knew all 6 and they were all coming at me. I knew them with total clarity, and I wasn't distracted by any of the other 5, just all 6. It was just like the light was turned on. And that's why it blew me away so much. It was like I never experienced anything like that. That was supernatural. It felt different than anything, and it was that intensity. And it was the same way with the next three and the next two, to the point where after that last one, I was like, whoa, I mean, what are you doing, God? What is this? Why are you showing me this? Because again, it wasn't religious, as you know, except for the last pillar, which is faith. But I mean, for the most part, this was almost like a newsreel. It's like, this is happening. And it wasn't scary. It was intense, but it was not the least scary. It was just very matter of fact, as if like a detective came in and said, this is going on in your town, do something about it. You know, it was just like that, matter of fact. And it wasn't even do something about it. The do something about it came later as I was writing it, and it was just occurring to me, you know, this isn't just to transfer information that this is being worked on. It's to bring the knowledge that it's being worked on so that we do something about it. And I liken it to Jonah. Remember the story of Jonah and the whale? God tells Jonah, I want you to go to Nineveh and go through the city and warn them that I'm going to destroy the city. And Jonah just squirms and tries to get away from God, doesn't want to do it. He goes on a ship to get away from God with a bunch of sailors. God brings up the storm, and the sailors are, what is going on? What did you do? And he tells them, I'm running from God. They throw him overboard. He gets swallowed by the whale, spit out, and then he's finally willing. It's like, okay, God, I'll go do it. But the point is, he walks through the city 40 days, and Nineveh is going to be destroyed. 39 days, and Nineveh was like New York City of its day, huge city, by the way they measured them back then. And he's walking through saying that it's coming, the city's going to be destroyed, you better repent. And what happens is, from the king all the way down to the lowliest person, they all repent, and God spares the city. And then Jonah's mad at God because he didn't do what he said he was going to do. You're making me look bad, you know. And but the point was God revealed it to Jonah not because he wanted to destroy the city, because he wanted to save the city. And I feel it's a little bit like that. It's being revealed not because he wants it to happen, because he wants us to stop it from happening. And the way you stop it from happening is spreading the knowledge of these things. Like, you know, I would say read the book, look at the proof. Once you're convinced, share that information with other people. And my desire is that this would get in the hands of some people in government who would develop policies to push back against all 11 of these, and that we save Western society, because this is happening all over Western society. Like, just real quick, the Borders example. I was on a podcast with a podcaster from Ireland, and the same exact thing that was happening here, putting them up in hotels, pushing the citizens out of the hotels, giving them all the free money, the free hotel, the free food, you know, the credit cards that recharge, paying exorbitant amounts to hotel owners so that, you know, they will only have migrants in there. Having the police not prosecute crimes, just like here. I mean, it's a perfect parallel, and it's happening all over Europe. So it is a globalist top-down effort. It's just that in America, we're so, you know, tunneled in on just our local news, our state news, that we're not really into national news. But if you have your eyes open, you realize it's happening all over the Western world, meaning Western Europe, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and also to some degree Singapore, Japan.
Yeah. I have a question. Do you think both of these hemispheres are competing in this idea, or maybe this big chess game with the pillars?
I think it is the most intense in the Western world, because that is, someone pointed out to me, I didn't think about it when I wrote the book, but somebody pointed out to me that Western civilization is the cradle of the growth and spread of Christianity and the modern legal system that we have today. And basically the moral code that we have is all historical Christendom, which I know it started in Israel, but it quickly spread all through Europe and what we call the West today. That is what evil wants to take down more than anything. He wants to take it all down because it's the West that has the idea of human rights. You know, we hold these things to be self-evident that we're endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This thing that rights come from God, not from the government, is a uniquely Western concept, and it's because it's based on the Bible. You know, up until a few decades ago, the Ten Commandments were on every courtroom in the country almost. They were in the classrooms decades and decades ago. We've drifted a long way from what we once were, and the convictions we once held, and the strength we once had as a society that was more consistently ethical and based on the true teachings of Christianity. And I think that's why the evil is most intensely going after this, because if you can take us down, it's much easier to take the rest of the world down. Although they are working on the rest of the world as well, but not as intensely as they are, the Western societies.
Yeah, and I think there's been some infiltration. I mean, that's something that we we don't like to say it because it's our country, and we everyone's everyone has some sort of patriotism
Sure,
in their heart, so they really don't like the thought of, yeah, maybe our government is contributing to the idea of a new world order, which I can kind of see maybe some of the ideas of that. Everyone has their opinions; they're flowing through social media. I feel like the
sure,
propaganda is at a very high rate, so the tension of our minds is on the limit of being like fractured. If that makes any sense, right? Because you've got
sure.
people saying that the administration is pretty bad. And then you've got some that are like, no, this is actually really good for us. But I see the fruits of the work there is being done with the administration and with the artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
foundation that's being
yeah.
created in America. Kind of, it does scare me.
It
Yeah,
does.
you
Yeah,
have any thoughts with
as well.
that?
Yeah, yeah. I would be for AI if I think. I mean, if they would just drop the surveillance aspect of it, like drop the desire to know everything about me, everywhere I'm going, everything I'm thinking, every penny I spend and where I am and where I go, and tracking me through my cell phone, my location, the cameras on every corner, the email that's read. Like drop all that, drop the surveillance, and let's just use AI to make society more productive and to make things more efficient. And let's spread the wealth and make everybody's life better because it has the power to do that. Just like the steam engine, made transportation better, and then rocketry, and then the gasoline engine, and you know what I mean. So it's normal for things to progress and make us more efficient, smarter, to improve the standard of living, and AI could help with all of that. Um, but it goes off the rails is the whole surveillance thing, and that is definitely part of it. And I'm honestly not sure if, let's just say, Trump himself understands that very clearly. I know he's spending all this money on AI, he's bringing all these trillions of investments. I mean, so is China, though. And, there's this fear. It's like, it's kind of like the space race between us and the Russians all those years ago.
Yes.
It's like they're doing it. We got to do it. We can't just let them run wild with it and be at that disadvantage. It's kind of like that when it comes to AI. China's doing it. You know, they have the ability to build robot armies at much higher capacity than we do, let's say. So we can't not do it. I don't think we can just not do it. I mean, do we trust them? I mean, to have
Right.
that advantage. So it's kind of a trap. You got to do it, but can't we just do it without the surveillance? That would be my wish.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that can seduce humanity into just building this platform for that idea. I mean, if you think of like man, if you think of the Bible and who we are in our hearts and our minds, if we don't have, our savior in our heart helping us make some of these decisions, I feel like the sinful nature of man would just kind of grab these
Oh yeah.
ideas and do whatever they plan to do with it.
Oh yeah, and that's really kind of the theme of the book. Not so much the AI side of it, but just the nature of man. I mean, the reason the Bible rings true today as it did back then is because it's timeless, because everything in there is really all about character and sin and salvation. And we all have the same potential set of flaws. We all have the same potential to go to the dark side or to the good side.
It's like
That
Star Wars, man.
exactly, that classic battle is fighting within all of us, and we choose which direction we're going to follow. But if we give ourselves over completely to either side, then dramatic things happen. If we yield to God, dramatic things for good can happen. I've been reading the stories of some of the saints, and it's really interesting when you go back like 1,000 years or more, and you read about some of these saints. I mean, some of these people started like 30 hospitals, 30 hospitals, and they had no money. They just found a way to do it. They got, and it's like this poor, uneducated nun or whatever, monk or whatever, they start monasteries, they start hospitals, they start libraries, they start school systems, and they just have the energy to get so much done. And it just seems like they're being led and directed because they are yielded to God. And then you get people on the other side, like many of these high level globalists who are intent on using technology to get control over people, to dominate them, to take their wealth, to have it all for themselves. It's 2030, you own nothing and you'll be happy, and they own everything and they're like delirious. So, I mean, how could somebody have a plan that evil? Well, when they can leverage technology and wealth, the banking system, um, their control over money gives them control to bribe, control to reward, control to punish. And
Right.
because of technology, the ability of people to get rich is unlike anything in the past because they can leverage it for good or evil. And I'm not saying whether a certain person is good or evil, but just look at Jeff Bezos, for example. He found the technology, he had partners backing it. He created the most efficient system for selling things online that you can ever imagine. You can get anything you want with your smartphone, you can get it done in less than 30 seconds. And we all use it. And it's great in a lot of ways, but it's made him one of the richest men in the world. You look at Elon Musk leveraging technology like crazy, same thing. One of the richest men in the world. And there's all kinds of billionaires now because technology is the piece that they didn't have in the past like they do today. It just multiplies the ability to make money and to get influence. And you look at Bill Gates and all the things he's involved in. Um, the book really gets into a lot of the things he's into and how much power he has.
Right.
And who gave him the right to release mosquitoes over Florida that are bioengineered to basically vaccinate people when they bite them, or to geoengineer food, or to buy up literally 70 million acres of western forest land for the sole purpose of mowing down the trees and burying them in what he calls the fight against carbon. The guy's twisted, in my opinion, but they have enormous power, and they tend to work together, and that's what makes it such a threat.
Yeah, and I always talk about this once in a while on the show where this kind of for me gets into, and I don't know if you're familiar with the idea or the story, but the fallen angel narrative, the
Mhm.
Genesis 6 conspiracy. I've had Gary Wayne on the show a few times, and we really hit it off when he gets into the conversation that these fallen angels came down, took wives, and
Mhm.
had a race. And
The Book of Enoch.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Book of Enoch, playing
Mhm.
a part in all of this, and that
Mhm.
it's not, it's an extra biblical text, and it's
Right.
not in the canon.
Right.
But the idea that these fallen angels developed a race, and that this race of beings, the Nephilim, that they had the divine right to rule the nations. And we can see a lot of it with the ancient texts. We can see it through the Sumerian, Babylonian, in all of pretty much the pagan religions, that there's this general story
Hmm.
that the gods mated with man, and they had demigods.
Yeah.
But it's the whole story of that they believe that they have the divine right to rule. And once the deluge happened and the flood and the antediluvian period was a part of a book on the bookshelf of the past, right?
Yeah.
I think that these for somehow something happened where the bloodline kind of started back up after this, and I think that's where we get the secret societies, the mystery schools, and
Oh, yeah.
we get these bloodlines that really, in some way, shape, or form, rule the earth
Well,
today.
some of them believe they're descendants of Cain, right?
Yes, yes,
They honestly believe that, and they protect that bloodline. And, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, the point is they believe it. And if they think they have the right, and, they're so interbred for that same reason, because they want to all be of that one bloodline. And you don't get to be in power at the highest level unless you are. So they,
right, right, and it's
they
the
keep,
serpent seed, right? If you read
yeah,
in Genesis, right, this is the serpent seed. This is the lineage. Chapter 4 is basically the lineage of Cain, I believe it is. But the lineages in the Bible are separated. They're literally two different chapters talking about two different bloodlines for a purpose.
hmm,
And I believe that's where we get the different tribes, the giants, and all this kind of stuff. And they're
yeah,
almost like giants nowadays, because I always revolve around the idea that these men of renown are just nothing more than corporations and the people that are above government. If you think of the pyramid, right, of the structure of the world,
yeah.
government is not at the top. It's a part of it, but it's not at the top. And these families and these big corporations, the bankers, they have an influence on these government powers.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's, uh, it's dismaying to a point when you realize how little power most presidents have had, and the ones that try to step out of the box usually get assassinated, um, including the current one who steps out of the box a lot and had 2 hits on his life and maybe more that we don't know about. But the ones that step out of the box are often going against the banking system at some level. They're a threat to the central banking control of the world. And that's probably a whole different conversation. But there is some truth to that. I mean, remember Kennedy came out with the $5 bill that wasn't a Federal Reserve note. He came out with that. I think it was backed by silver, if I remember. I'm not sure, but Lincoln too, and there were several others that got assassinated that basically were trying to pull the country away from a central banking system, a foreign banking system. And then, of course, in 1913, we got the Federal Reserve. We got back on a central banking system. At the same year, we got the IRS because the banking system and the taxation system work in tandem to take the money from the people and to control the people through taxation and to control the money system. So that is a big part of the pyramid of world power that you're talking about is the banking system, the Bank of International Settlements. The central banking systems of the world are all related. They're independent. They're not ruled by governments. Separate banking families that control them all together. So, I mean, our Federal Reserve has refused to say where its money goes, and there's people who think that they're giving some U.S. dollars to other central banks of the world to prop them up. It's because to them they're one central banking privately held system that's not really controlled by the government. So yeah, they have enormous power.
Yeah, and if you control the money, you can control the people, because
Oh
people are
yeah,
manipulated by money. So it's if
absolutely.
anything, it's it's like it's almost like involuntary. It's hidden in the shadows, right? If they're able to manipulate the money, and which it's moving towards electronic, right? A
Sure.
blockchain based system, cryptocurrency, stable coin, whatever you want to call it. It's moving to that area where the idea of programmable money really is on the table. It's on the table now. It's
Well,
like
there's a video in the book. So the book has 175 QR codes that link you directly to things to kind of supplement the book as you're
oh, that's
reading it, which
awesome.
makes it really fun to read. But to show you real quick. So I just opened it randomly here. So you can see there's a QR code there, QR code there, right? So there's diagrams, there's QR codes, but what they link to is it's 100 videos and about 75 documents and articles. But there's a video in there on the banking system that you can link to through the QR code that has the head of the Bank of International Settlements, which is kind of like above the central banks.
Right. It's above the IMF, right? The International Monetary
Yeah.
Fund, all that. Yeah.
And he's openly talking about what this central bank digital currency is going to do, the power it will have, that you won't be able to escape it if they're able to implement it. They'll know everything. He talks about we'll be able to decide what people can spend their money on and what they can't spend their money on and how they can turn the money off. I mean, it's a fascinating video, again, in their own words. That's what makes the book powerful.
Right.
Not just me saying it, it's taking you to these videos where you can hear them say it.
Yeah. And I think that's why they're really pushing for a digital ID. Because I think without the digital ID, you can't have that idea of stablecoin, crypto, financial system. The digital ID will go with it. The
Oh, yeah.
digital ID will be the thing that authenticates your transaction in money, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Well,
Um,
and that's the only way that you could get to the point where the Bible predicted a couple thousand years ago, the whole world was unable to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but just for anyone who's listening in, that central control was not possible until the last decade or two at the most. That was the thing that sounded crazy, but you can imagine somebody not being able to buy or sell without that digital ID. Call it what you want. It's a mark. It's tied to you. And the head of the BIS said it himself. It's right there in the video. You can hear him say it. Basically, we're going to be able to control the world. He doesn't use those words, but everything he's saying implies it.
right,
Yeah,
exactly, man. So, all right, so let's circle back around. I want to circle back around to the 11 pillars.
sure.
And let's dive back into those. Would the food system be a part of that?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah,
Okay.
that is number nine, pillar number nine, the food supply. You want to jump there?
Well, we can
That's
start. Let's start. We'll go up the ladder, if that makes any sense.
okay. Sure, sure. Let
Yeah,
me
I'm
let me
excited about
jump here. Pull
it.
my
And that
notes
that's
up
a
here.
big wake up call for a lot of people too, was the food system, right? Obviously, a lot of people, I would say 50 to 60% of the population now is aware of the food industry, who runs it, the corporations behind it, which there's only like 4 to 6 of them. But the
Yeah,
fact that the food isn't like it was back in the day. I'm not gonna try and say certain words on here to get this channel
yeah,
nuked, but
yeah,
but there's a lot of things, especially RFK is coming in and he's running this whole health program initiative for the United States to change some regulations with some things. So it was kind of, what I'm saying is it's the food is unethical, if that makes any sense.
yeah. Well, what they've done to the food, the quality of the food is frightening and unethical, unfair, dastardly. Pick your word. It's bad.
Yeah.
But are we going to start with at the beginning, or do you want to start with food? I can do either one.
We could start at the beginning. We'll come back. We'll
Okay.
come back to food.
All right. So collapse number one, and I arranged these in the sequence that I felt at the time I wrote the book was most obvious. Put the most obvious ones up front. National borders. Anyone who was paying attention to the news could see how our borders were being crashed, um, and I mean crashed. Probably 20 million people. The estimates go from 6 million to 25 million. So you can
Oh,
pick your
wow.
number. The point is, nobody knows for sure because it was wide open and good statistics were not kept intentionally. Tons of gotaways. So why would anybody open the borders and not check people coming into the country, not know who's coming in? We had Ellis Island all those years ago. Everybody came into Ellis Island. Everything was recorded. You had to have somebody who was supporting you, a relative or somebody in business who was going to give you a job. You didn't just get to coast in and kind of hang out. But this time around, everybody's just coming in. There's no check, no meaningful check. And here you go. You're just in the country, and not just in the country. We'll let you pick the city you want to go to. We'll fly you there. We'll pay for it. We'll pay for your food. Thousands of dollars a month in hotel bills. We'll pay for all that too. You don't have to have a job. We'll just added to the national debt, right? And that's what they did. That makes no sense. That makes no sense unless you're trying to bring the country down. And it, even the argument that, okay, they did it to get voters because I think they'll vote one way or the other. That only makes sense if you have no regard for the future of the country at all. I mean, if you have kids or grandkids or anybody that you care about, you're not going to want to create chaos, even if it means getting voters. So this was bigger than that. This was part of a plan to take America down. And they did the exact same thing as I mentioned earlier, all through Western Europe. And the book has videos of people swarming into Italy and different countries in Europe. The guy I spoke to on a recent podcast, he's talking about Ireland, how it's just totally out of control. And I just saw a poor woman today. I saw it was just a reel of her, but she's there with a microphone in Ireland. She's in her early 60s and saying they're kicking me out of my rented home because the government is giving landlords 8,000 euros upfront plus 4,000 euros a month if they'll rent it to the government, who's giving it to the illegals who are flooding into the country. And she said, I don't have anywhere to live. Nobody will rent to me because everybody's renting to the government. And so they bring the illegals in. They rub it in the face of in our case, the Americans, their case, the Europeans. I have a friend who's also in his 60s in Germany, and small businessman, smart guy, loves this country. He just packed up and moved to Austria, same language, German language. And because it was getting so out of control in Germany for the same reasons we're talking about. The illegals coming in, the government having one set of rules for them and one set of rules for their own citizens. People who criticize the illegals go into prison. Illegals in countries in Europe, they get caught raping or whatever, and then the woman who complains about it goes to prison longer than the person who committed the rape. That's how bad it is. And so it's a worldwide effort to bring down, to dilute each society so that we no longer can identify as a society. We're so intermixed. It's so done so rapidly that we don't even have our own culture anymore. That's what they're after. Because that's one step to what John Kerry, who's a globalist, calls a borderless world. He spoke to the graduating class of Northeastern University a few years ago and said, you're going to graduate into a borderless world. That was before all this started. And so he knew what was coming. He knew the plan. And the plan is again, it's for us, it's for Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand. It's out of control, but yeah, the plan is to dilute society and to start causing chaos. And in Europe's case, it really started in 2011 with the fall of Libya, and then Syria. That released the flood, and they've been having it ever since. We got a 4-year break during Trump's first term where he cut that off. Biden opened the floodgates. Trump cut it off again. So even though we're having issues here in Europe, it's much worse because they have nobody's resisting it at the government level over there.
Yeah, and I think too with the border issue, it's causing a lot of chaos. And whenever I see chaos, I'm like, it's like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like looking at the TV and he's whistling and he's like, "Hey, hey, hey, what's that?" I see it as I just can't whistle, so I can't like really reenact it very well. Forgive me, but when I see the border things happening, I see a lot of chaos with it. I see just a lot of not only issues, but there's just everything's moving so fast. And if it's one of those things where if you're not ahead of the game,
Yeah.
then you're behind the ball,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so we've been behind the ball the whole time. And
Well,
when I saw the administration, what they did out of the chaos was create a tracking system, right? So
Yeah.
there was this tracking system that came into it. Is it like a natural cause and effect type thing that would happen? Absolutely. But I think sometimes the powers like to work through the Hegelian dialect where they
Oh,
like
yeah.
to use the problem reaction solution.
Exactly.
And it looks natural. It looks organic, right?
Oh, yeah, they
when
had
you
the
have it like that.
solution waiting. They were just juicing up the problem big enough that people would cry for it. Oh, yeah. That's what they do. Well, talk about greasing the rails to cause the problem. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a war reporter. His name's Michael Yon, and he goes all over the world constantly. He's living out of a suitcase most of the year. He went down to an area in Panama called the Darien Gap, just north of Colombia, between Colombia and in Panama, but just north of Colombia. So the Darien Gap is about a 50-mile stretch of land that you have to walk. But what they did is our own government, working in tandem with the UN, bussed people right up to the beginning of the Darien Gap so that they could, go through Panama, then up through Mexico, and then up into the United States. And he has photos of Alejandro Mayorkas landing, and I don't have a picture of that in the book, but Michael Yon talks about this. He's seen him landing with a black ops helicopter in this Darien Gap area. And, he's all about building up these camps, spending the UN money with the US to speed the flow of illegals into the country. So they're coming from all over the world up through the Darien Gap. That's what was happening. And it's our own country paying for it, which I know is hard to believe for most people. That's why you got to see the proof. But yeah, it's bad,
Wow.
or it was
Yeah.
bad.
Man. Oh my goodness. Keep taking me, brother. This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm enjoying myself.
Okay. Well, number 2 is security and police protection. And this kind of goes in tandem with rushing the borders and having a flood of new people entering your country who have not been vetted. So, of course, some of them are going to be spies, some of them are going to be gang members, some are going to be nice people that just want a better way of life. But when you announce, like Biden did during the debates before he became president, that yes, I would open the border, and that QR code will take you to a link where you can see him say it. I would tell them to rush the border. I would say, Surge, come on in. And that was during the debate. He said he would do that, and he did it in a bigger way than we ever imagined. But then what happened? You combine that flood with what happened after the Floyd riots of 2020, where the cities were burning. And what did these far left mayors do? What did these far left governors do? They said, let's reimagine policing. Let's have less police. Let's defund the police. Let's, throw the police in jail if they get too rough with the people. Let's make them afraid to do their job. Let's report them. Let's have the citizenry go against them. That's what happened. So they defunded the police, and now there's more people coming in, more criminals than they ever had to deal with, and they have less police to deal with it than they ever had. So this makes people insecure. You can these governors and mayors said you can steal up to $1,000 per store per day, and if it's not more than $1,000, we won't arrest you. We've seen anybody that's paying attention has seen the videos of kids storming these stores with green trash bags, loading them up, running out of the store. Nobody goes to jail, and they could go from store to store and nobody's stopping them. It's chaos. So security and police protection, lack of it, crime, that is the play, and the exact play is happening in Europe. Exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And with the police state, with how how it is being portrayed in culture right now, there's a lot. Obviously, you see that there's a race war. Everything that's hitting the media is kind of underneath one scope. But with my idea of the police state in the future, again, it could be one of these pillars that you're talking about that maybe gets broken down, but something has to take its place. Do you think it would come to a point to where military police comes in and is something that takes initiative for the fracturing of
Problem,
society?
reaction, solution. Yes. I mean, so what happened, and I should have mentioned this, but the way they were able to do this is through the district attorneys. And these are, a lot of them are bought and paid for by George Soros, because the DA races are very inexpensive to influence. For like, maybe a couple $100,000, you can win a DA, district attorney race. And you get control in these big cities of the district attorney. And then the DA, he decides what he's going to prosecute and not prosecute. And that's where they're saying, like in New York, in Chicago, in LA, no, we're just not going to prosecute certain crimes. And we're picking shoplifting as one of them, and all kinds of crime, violent crimes, a lot of times are not really punished. So that's the linchpin is the DA, and that's what they've done. A combination of a weak DA, district attorney, and soft on crime, and less police. The police get demoralized. They go to red states where they're open and welcoming with open arms and giving them bonuses to sign on. So you've got two Americas. You've got the unprotected blue cities, and you've got the more traditional law and order red cities, red towns. The trouble is almost all the big cities are blue, and you got these corrupt district attorneys running them. And so, yes, I think it will come down, and we're seeing it. We're seeing Trump talking about sending them to Chicago, sending them to Oregon. He started with D.C., but he has the authority to do that. But people are begging him to do it because
Right.
now if these left-wing mayors and governors and people in power in general were doing their job, there'd be no reason, and it would be a crime for the federal government to come to the rescue. But is it really a crime for the federal government to come to the rescue when the states are captured by, I'll just say it. I mean, these are communists who are taking it down according to the communist 49-point plan that was read into the congressional record in the 60s as a warning of what they were trying to do. Well, that plan really hasn't changed much. It has different
Hmm.
titles, different labels, but it's the same set of control points that they're going after. And at what point do you say, I also have the right to protect you from someone who's trying to harm you as the federal government? I mean, it depends how you look at it. You can say they're going way beyond their control, and what's their motive? We don't know. But at some point, if somebody goes after someone I love, I'm going to step in. So
Right.
where is
Right.
that line? And a lot of people are in that dilemma. It's like they're welcoming it because it is getting so out of control.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Humans are just sheep, you know. They get all wrestled around and they're not very
Yeah,
smart. Unless you do a lot of research and knowledge, seek knowledge and stuff of how the
true.
fabric of reality is constructed. But yeah, man, wild stuff, man.
So true. Well, number three is privacy. And this one is kind of sneaky. It sneaks up on us. I mean, if there was ever an example of the metaphor, boiling the frog slowly, turning the heat up, and the frog doesn't notice it and just stays there, and before he knows it, he's dead. Um, this would be one. So the lack of privacy, and it really began with the attack on the Twin Towers and all the excuses that were made to begin this draconian um, surveillance state. It really blossomed, and the excuse was, well, hey, we've just been attacked from a Al Qaeda, from a country that's hostile to us, and we have to start this war on terror. And to do that, we have to monitor all the incoming communication. Where really all along, I believe, after studying the whole thing, that they knew this was where it was going to go. And this was the slippery slope toward the surveillance state that we have today. Um, Not too long after 9/11, it might have been a year, 6 months after, I walked into a phone store. That's back when you still went to the mall to get your phones, your new phones. So I wanted to get a new phone, and I wanted to have like a backup battery because, if your phone runs out of juice, you want to be able to slap another battery in there and not be at the mercy of recharging. Didn't used to be so easy and quick to recharge your phone back then, but So I wanted an extra battery. Go into the store. They go, we don't have those anymore. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, all the new phones are sealed. The battery, you can't take them out anymore. And I remember being like really perplexed, like who would think of something that stupid? Isn't there even one brand where I can get a battery? Nope, none of them have them anymore. And what that meant was you could never truly turn your phone off. Now, there's been studies done, the book will take you to it, that even when your phone is off, even when you have all your privacy settings to make it as safe as it can possibly be, it's proven that that operating system, the Apple operating system or the Google operating system, Android, is tracking you. It knows where you go. It knows how long you've been there. It knows when you went to the next place. It tracks it all, even when it's off. And that's part of, I believe, why you can't remove the battery anymore, because they want to make sure they can track you. And the only way to get around that is to have what's called a Faraday bag that you can put the phone in and close it, which cuts it off from communication, or to leave it home. You do anything other than that, if it's on you, it's tracking you. And so that's just one area. But if you combine that with, remember when we came out of the lockdowns, I won't say the word, but when we came out of that situation, those lockdowns, there were cameras on every corner. Do you remember that? Do you remember the
Yep.
difference? Now, I live near a city, but in a small town. And in that small town, every major street corner had a camera after we came out of that situation, and they weren't there before. What happens now on the turnpikes? And most of the ones that I go through, if you don't have the decoder thing, that you buy so that you can have cheaper rates, don't worry, just blow through. We'll send the bill. We got your license plate. And so a bill arrives, you don't wait anymore. That's New York City. I've heard that's the way it works now too. There's no more throwing money in and getting that old delay. Just drive right through. We'll send you the bill, no problem. So they're tracking you that way too. They're tracking your email. The proof of it is if you have Gmail, do a search on something that's buried in the content of the email. It'll find it instantly. That means it's all been read. That means it's all been organized by topic and everything, and they can get to it instantly, just like a Google search is. It's all pre-indexed for rapid retrieval.
Hmm.
So they've done that. Um, and even worse than that, Google, and this is in the book, I'm not just making this up. You can find the sources and go right to the articles. Um, Google assigns you a group ID, a group identifier based on your behavior, based on your search behavior, and probably on your email behavior. They'll put you into a group, and that group might have a label like right-wing extremist. And, they'll decide what qualifies you. So maybe you listen to something controversial. Maybe you tuned into Alex Jones because you were curious. You went to InfoWars and you just wanted to hear it. Well, maybe now they consider you possibly a dangerous right-wing. Do you remember the speech that Biden made where he talked about MAGA being the enemy of the state? And you remember he had, I don't know if you saw that speech where he had the red lights behind him at night,
Yeah,
lighting up
it
the
was
wall, and the Marine
so
guards with their arms.
1984.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. So
wild. That's the first thing I saw was the lights. I was like, dude, this is like
it's like Hitler. It really is. I mean, I don't like to
yeah,
use that word, but that was what Hitler did. He did the red lights at night, with all this and trying to whip up a frenzy against your political enemies. And yeah, it's like here we are, 1984, living the book.
right, right. Well, you mentioned the idea of surveillance, right? And that's kind of the things that are happening with these third-party electronics, the IOTA, right? The Internet of Things, right? So
Yes.
it's all around us, and it's actually has the capability where Wi-Fi in our house is able to map and track us not only through the walls, but at our exact locations as we're moving through the home, right? This
Yes.
is also getting into like why uh, power companies were upgrading their stuff to smart meters. Now, smart meters were able to know
Right.
if you're able, if you turn your light on in your kitchen, it knows that you're on your kitchen. All this stuff is data. The data is the new oil. It's the new dollar. It's what is drawing a map not only of us, but I think it's also building an avatar of us to be able to put this
Yes.
avatar in what's called an operation that was actually ran by DARPA. It's called Sentient World Simulation. They can
Hmm.
actually put this avatar in this and your data into this model that they have that generates if they can generate something as far as like a school shooting and then see how the avatars react. So then they're able to really
Yeah.
move their plans forward, and that's crazy. But also, this makes me think of a document I read by the World Economic Forum. It's 40 something pages long. It came out in 2022. It was an insight report talking about the power of data intermediaries and the whole future of digital agency, right? And the fact that it talks about a digital ID in there. I mean, throughout a lot of the paperwork, it talks about learning versus or machine thinking versus human thinking, and it also talks about that our mobile devices right now is our digital ID. So we have a
Hmm.
digital ID system in place. It's compatible with biometrics. It maybe scans our eyes. It uses infrared light. I know that for a fact because I actually tested it and saw it through an infrared
Wow.
camera, which
Hmm.
whenever you turn your phone towards your face and your screen pops up, it's strobing infrared light, so it's picking up you even if it's completely pitch black in whatever room or car or wherever you're
Wow.
at
How
nighttime.
about that?
And what's crazy is in that insight report, and I've talked about this on many shows because I've done a huge study on it. So my audience is like, "Shut up, Steven," but I want to tell you that they talk about the movement of it throughout the future, and it's in a cell phone stage right now. It'll become in a stage where it'll become something that's considered to be a wearable. Doesn't say that, but it definitely alludes to it. And then it'll be embedded into the body. It
Yeah.
actually says embedded into the body. This is where we get into Revelation 13, the
Yeah.
mark of the beast idea. The fact that that they want to push this idea of privacy being connected or inside of the body because it securely authenticates who you are. Because I also think something that's going to be impacting our privacy in the future of our money system is cyber polygon. This is an idea World Economic Forum has also been running scenarios about for a very long time, but it's where there's gonna be hackers throughout the ages here, doing things in the name of other people's identity. We can see that with spam calls that light you up 5, 6 times a day,
Oh, yeah.
trying to take your identity, your numbers, and then do things with your identity. So,
Sure.
anyways, that's a problem reaction solution issue that hopefully is way down the future, not around the corner, but
Yeah, well, on the privacy issue, the book does get into some solutions, and one of them is purchasing what's called a de-Googled phone so that it doesn't use that tracking system.
Nice.
And if you're willing to compromise with maybe some of your apps that you won't have, but if privacy is really important, you can still have good apps, calendar apps, and everything else, but they won't be the ones you're used to. But you can get a de-Googled phone, and you won't be tracked.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's hope. There's
There is
always
some hope,
a
yes.
counter chess move.
Yes.
Thank God.
And the
Yeah.
thing we didn't talk about on privacy was the whole, or just let's call it, snooping, the whole social media censorship where remember how bad it used to be before X finally opened up. I mean, I think if X wouldn't have opened up, we'd be in a whole different place, and X isn't totally free, but compared to what it was, it's free speech, because it was so bad. I mean, when you can censor the president of the former president of the United States and say you're not welcome on our platform anymore, and you have the power to do that. I mean, that censorship was just unbelievable, and it was censoring. I mean, the entire right wing side of the conversation, the conservative side. You don't have to say right wing, just the middle of the road. If you weren't on the left, you were censored pretty much.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And social media is just another data retrieving tool that they use.
So
Uh,
true.
yeah.
Facebook, everybody's face is captured. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, which used to be what is, it's allegedly known as Lifebook that was created by DARPA. DARPA
Yeah,
created the internet, all this kind of stuff.
it's a deep hole. All right, so number 4 is banking and finance, and that, Henry Kissinger's famous quote, part of it was, "Who controls the money controls the world." And I have a quote here by Ed Dowd. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a current economist. He said back in 2024, everything is great except the real economy because they're fudging the numbers so bad. And he ended up being right. He said the unemployment numbers to him look so fudged that this is near criminal, borderline criminal was his quote. And then it turned out that they unfudged them by 800,000. They came back later and said, you know what? There were 800,000 more unemployed than we told you about. And now we're telling you about it. So he was right. He was right. But yeah, so with banking and finance, the idea is to collapse that banking system so that they have the excuse to roll in a whole new system. Um, and one of the ways they are collapsing the system is actually the Fed pulled a real fast one on the bankers, on all the, you know, banks under its control. And that fast one, I call it, was rapidly switching the Federal Reserve borrowing rate. Used to be, remember, we had all these, like a decade of near zero interest rates, 1%, 0.5%, that the banks were paying for, money from the Fed. Well, they cranked it up to 5% just within a few months. And so what happened is during all this low interest time and all this easy money that the banks had, they were loading up on treasury bills and treasury notes that were all low interest, right? So they had their assets in those things. Like their extra money was in treasury bills and treasury notes. They didn't put it in cash, they put it in those. And so as soon as that rate went up to 5%, if you had a note at 1% and the new rate's 5%, that note is worth 20% of what it used to be because it went from 1 to 5. The new ones are paying 5, yours is paying 1. The new one's paying 5 times. So yours is only worth 20% of what it used to be. So if people have any kind of run on the bank and you have to cash in your note to get cash to give to the people, you're going to get 1/5 of the cash you would have gotten like a year before. Or if it's at 2.5%, you get half the cash. You know what I mean? You can do the math. No matter how you do it, they're in deep trouble if there's a run on the banks because they've got these notes. Some of them are 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. So they're going to expire at different times. But if they have to cash them in, they're underwater. And so they can take these banks down really quickly by causing enough of an economic problem that there is a run on the bank. So remember, we had the 3 big banks: Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic Bank that all went under in 2023.
Mm,
Those were 3
I
banks.
remember that. Yes.
Those 3 banks, uh, to bail them out, cost more than the entire 2008 banking crisis with just 3. 3. These were 3 enormous banks. And so you say, well, my money's insured by the FDIC. Yeah, but only to the point where they have the money to pay for it. Those 3 banks alone almost wiped out the FDIC. Could you imagine? I mean, the
Wow.
FDIC has less than 1%, is able to cover less than 1% of all the money in banks in this country. Less than 1.
Oh my goodness.
So it doesn't take a whole. So I don't. Most people aren't old enough to remember this, but I remember when after the 2008 crisis, uh, George Bush waved his magic wand and said, "You know what? Your money is now, instead of insured to 125,000, now it'll be insured to 250,000." Just on bloop, double. We'll cover double, but only to the point that there's money there to cover it. That's what
Right.
people don't understand. It's, yeah, as long as not much is failing, you will get your money. And most of the people with these three banks got their money. Not all of them, though. Some of the foreign investors that had money lost it. But it wouldn't take much of a nudge to just bring it all down. And so we're on a razor's edge here. I'm no financial advisor, but to me, common sense would be convert some of your money to silver and maybe to gold if you have enough of it. But silver's the more common medium of exchange. I mean, I just looked it up today. Do you know how much silver went up just this year, just since January?
No.
54%. It's
Oh,
up
wow.
54% just since it went to $47 today. I mean, it might go back down, but just a week or two ago, it jumped all the way up to 44. And a little bit before that, it was at 40. The beginning of the year, it was at 30.
Right, right. My way of thinking on
Yeah.
that is what now, if we go to a digital system, a whole new idea of currency,
Yeah.
does that matter? I mean, that would matter in like a tangible society where you're bartering maybe. But if you are trying to like go and buy food from a store, they won't maybe they can't take silver or,
Right. No, I get what you mean. So there's two levels. Worst case scenario, if you're down to bartering because everything's the whole money system just collapsed. Like the Federal Reserve note is no longer worth anything and the new system isn't in yet. You would at least have a medium of exchange, and it's been a medium of exchange for thousands of years. I mean, the central banks have been buying gold for the last decade, hand over fist, all of them. China, it seems like only America wasn't, but most of the central banks of the world were buying money or buying gold hand over fist because they knew this was coming. They knew a collapse was coming. And what they can do is you can use that gold. They actually made gold a tier one financial asset. They consider it right up there with treasury bills and T notes and euro bonds. They consider it right up there with it. So they did make gold, and that wasn't until recently. But silver is similar to gold. It's just in a lower denomination that you can use it. But the thing is, if you have your assets there, they can't devalue and go to nothing, and then you can trade that silver in for the new thing. But if your money's in the old thing and the old thing becomes valueless, you got nothing to bring over to convert. That's the thing.
right. I
It
see
may
what you're
not be
saying.
pretty, but you can still do it. I mean, you can sell your money, you can sell your silver or gold right now back to a gold dealer, and he'll give you whatever the currency is. So you'll always be able to do that, I believe. But if it's in dollar bills that are becoming more and more, I mean, look at it at the grocery store. Right? I mean, I know Trump likes to say there's no inflation, but I look around and to me, I see a tremendous amount of inflation. You look at the amount of inflation in your insurance for your house or your car. Um, you go to a restaurant. I mean, I think I'm paying double what I was 2
Oh
years
yeah.
ago. I mean, can you get out of there for $50 with two people? It's pretty hard. I mean, maybe if you just have water, you know what I mean? You get the cheapest thing on the menu. And, so that with the tip, you're under 50, you might be able to do it. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not talking a fancy restaurant even. I mean, you can't get out of breakfast for under $25 with two people where I live. I
Dude,
mean,
breakfast is $55 if you go to Kiki's.
oh
Like,
my
don't go to
gosh.
Kiki's, and if you have, like, a
Yeah.
child,
Oh, forget it.
the child's meal, which is 1 egg, 1 pancake, and 1 piece of bacon, by the way, is $9. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness."
It wasn't that long ago you could get that for half that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what I'm trying to say is those dollars are dropping fast in value, but gold and silver are going the other way. They're maintaining their value. So a lot of people say it's not really that the gold is becoming more valuable, it's that the dollar is becoming less. So it takes more dollars for that same piece of gold. So if you get it now, you're going to pay less than getting it in the future. So I encourage people to get silver, or if they have enough money to get gold as well. But
Right on, right on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a financial advisor. Got to give that caveat. Don't want anybody getting in trouble here. So yeah, I mean the last thing on the financial system, real quick, and maybe I'm not going quick enough here, but I just want to mention that after the 2008 crisis, they rewrote the banking system rules. And some people don't know this, but the banks can legally take your money. You don't actually own the money that's in the bank directly. The bank owns it, and then they owe you. They owe you a debt for it. But the rules are written in such a way now because after that '08 collapse, they realized they couldn't pay for that again. And they came up with this scheme, and I call it a scheme because it is one, where they have the legal right to take your money if they need to stop the bank from collapsing. And they'll issue you an IOU in bank stock, worthless pretty much bank stock. That's their legal obligation to give you stock in the bank that they had to take your money for to not go under. And if they end up going under, too bad, you lost it. You don't even, that stock's worthless too.
That's hilarious. Isn't that like a part in the movie Dumb and Dumber where he opens up the briefcase? He's like, I got IOUs. Look, this one's 55 now.
Exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't, that, well, wow.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Yep. So, real quick, the next one is the collapse of education. This one's been going on for a long time, although it's sneaking up on us now. I mean, it's finally gotten so bad. Like during the pandemic crisis, people were seeing for themselves what their children were learning because they were learning online, and they were seeing the poor quality. Just that the classes have become more about social issues than about reading, writing, math, and science that like they used to be. And the book gets into this just to show that this is a really old problem that's been building for decades. There's an interview with a guy named Thomas Sowell. He's a highly educated black man who grew up in Harlem, and he's wealthy, influential at the time. An interview with Diane Rehm on C-SPAN, I think it was, and he talks about when he was a kid growing up. So this interview took place, might have been the 90s or 80s. So when he was growing up, he said, "When I grew up in Harlem, I got a better education in the public school system in Harlem than my daughter can get today at an expensive private school." He said, "Don't get me wrong, the private school's not bad, but what I got was better. The teachers had no mercy on you for getting your homework or not getting it done. You better be to class on time. They didn't want to hear why you couldn't get there. They worked us hard all day long. We had homework and we better have it done. We worked on it. We got it done. We were disciplined. They were disciplined. We learned a ton of things." And he said, "My daughter's not learning it near the pace that I learned." And so that just shows it's been coming for a long time. But the chapter starts off with a listing, a ranking of the 34 countries in the industrialized world, like the top 34. And it's like 10 years later, like 29-year-olds, it's like 18 to 29, who's struggling with math? Well, it turns out the United States is struggling worse than any other Western country. And there's a few others that are pretty bad. The UK is pretty bad. But some of the top ones are like, Japan, Vietnam, you
Right.
these countries, we spend more than anybody and we have some of the worst results. So it shows how poor our school system is in what's supposedly the richest country on earth as one of the poorest school systems. But
Yeah.
yeah, the idea is to take down the system so people aren't educated. They can't really fight back. They can't resist tyranny. They're just uneducated. I mean, you see these man on the street interviews. I'm sure you've seen them. It's so embarrassing. Who was George Washington? Can you name two of the founders? Um, what is Thanksgiving about? Um,
Oh, it's
people
pretty
can't answer
brutal.
the most basic things.
It's pretty brutal, but that's the age we're getting into where people want more attention online. They want the whole. I feel like people are making money online now in certain ways that you don't need to know the mathematics. You don't need to know the English, right, and the science and geography and all this kind of stuff, which would move you towards excelling your education in a collegiate level or whatever, getting your master's and going out and getting a really good paying job, or at least getting into an internship where you'll start a career at doing something.
Sure.
Everything's now online. I feel like the in real life streamers have taken over the culture where everyone wants to either play video games and make money or make content and make money, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah. And that's not a real economy.
No.
Um, yeah, I was just reading something today by one of the founders who was talking about the way you build a real economy, and he talks about making things. A manufacturing society is much better than a service society. That it brings true wealth, it builds capital, and we've gotten so far away from that. We went from that to a service society in the U.S. For the most part. We exported all our manufacturing to China and NAFTA countries, and do very little manufacturing here compared to half a century ago. But then we took it a step beyond that to the things that you're talking about, where it's really not even a service economy in a lot of ways. People are, yeah, content creators. I mean, now we're getting so far away from actually building stuff, and the countries that are like China have such an advantage over us, really economically. I've been to China. I went there. Let me see, what year was that? That was around 2010. And I got to admit, it was intimidating. I went to Beijing. Um, you know, Beijing on one level you could say is similar to New York City, except when I went in there, so I went into a nice hotel. I was up maybe 30 floors. I mean, it was totally polluted though. I mean, the skyline was all dust and dark. I mean, it's like you see these military
Smog.
parades where all the
Oh,
smog is at the street level.
yeah.
I mean, when you looked out over the horizon, I don't think you could see more than 500 yards. But in
Wow.
that 500 yards, you looked around and you saw these cranes, those pillar cranes, pedestal cranes, they call them, that are on the top of buildings. You could see
Mhm.
about 30 of them. That's how much construction was going on. Construction everywhere. I mean, they were spending money. You come back to the US and it's like, what's going on? Who's building anything? It's some homes now and then. It seems like the only thing we tend to build now for buildings is banks and hospitals. I mean, you look where the construction money is, it's financial institutions and medical institutions.
Right.
That's where most of it seems to go. But other than that, you don't see a lot over there. It was intimidating in the sense that these people are powerful. They got a lot of true wealth. They're making things, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think a lot of the infrastructure with the money may be going, and it's not going towards maybe certain areas where it should be funneled to with programs and all this kind of stuff. But again, that's where society, culture, government is like kind of it's all just mixed up right now. It's stressed.
And I think a
It
lot of it was stolen money too.
sure.
They said there's something like 21 trillion unaccounted dollars in the federal government. And are you familiar with Catherine Austin Fitts? Have you heard of her?
Yes, yeah, yeah. With the breakaway civilizations and all
She
this
talks
idea.
about the underground cities. That
Hmm.
there's, I think, is it 170 or 270? It's around 200 underground cities that they say that's where these $21 trillion have gone into making these things. And it
Oh
is
yeah.
like, you're right, it's a parallel breakaway society. But like, where has all this money gone? I mean, we're certainly taxed enough, at least the upper half of society is. And you look at, they always talk about this, I mean, Obama talked about a shovel ready jobs. Well, how many shovel ready jobs did we see for all those trillions that they dumped into the economy with that? Uh, what was the word they gave it? Quantitative easing, right? Where the Fed is dumping trillions into the economy. Where does it go? It seems like it goes down to in a black hole. You sure don't see much. You
Right.
you travel internationally and you look at the airports. I've been to Japan, Australia, a lot of Europe, and China, and you look at our airports versus their airports, our roads versus their roads. The U.S. starts to feel like almost like a third world country compared to.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah. You go to Japan, The roads are pristine. They look like they were all just paved. Uh,
Hmm.
the skyscrapers are gleaming. Like take a good look sometime. Look at like the major cities of the world, especially get out of Europe. Go to like the Eastern world. You know, Japan, China, Singapore. Um, these city these cities are lit up. They're bright. They're beautiful. The buildings are new and shiny. I mean, when I saw the cities in Japan, I mean, it was almost mind blowing. It's like they glistened in the sun. It's like the level of the level of cleanliness was unbelievable. It was just part of their culture, but it extended to everything, the highway systems, all of it. It was just amazing. And yeah, it was like I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but you come back from
Hmm.
Vegas where everything's pristine and impressive. Any town sort of looks a little crusty after coming back from Vegas.
Right.
But that's the experience I had coming back from some of these countries. Everything looked almost like I had just been in Vegas. That's the best analogy I can give you. But yeah, it's like we have not been investing in our infrastructure. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty much where it was in the 50s in a lot of ways, the highway systems and everything else.
Well, I'll ask you this: what do you think these breakaway civilizations are meant for? What's the purpose of taking $21 trillion and doing construction underground? Maybe this involves the Denver airport. Maybe I think it's been going on for a long time, a few decades,
Yeah.
uh, and it seems to be. I'm trying to still figure out the purpose for it, but I don't know if this is like a system set in place for the elites to live in a time of cataclysm. You look at all the elites, and they have underground bunkers.
Yeah.
They've got their own underground bases on their properties. Some of them,
Yeah.
there's a lot of propaganda with
So what
Three
are
Eye
they so worried
Atlas.
about, right? Why are they doing that? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that tells you they think something's coming. I mean, so the book gets into what are the goals of the globalists early on before we get into the 11 pillars. And one of the goals is the hardest one to accept, but I think the evidence is there, is depopulation.
Hmm.
You know, you could go to the extreme. It also the book gets into the Georgia Guidestones before they were destroyed, but the Georgia Guidestones lists the ideal world population at not more than 500 million, so
Yeah.
half a billion. In other words, we'd have to get rid of 7.5 billion people on the planet to get it down to that level. So, and you look at Bill Gates, he talks about depopulation. He said if we do a good enough job on vaccines and some other things, we might be able to get the world population down by 10 to 15%. That's in his TED talk, which is also linked to in the book. You can hear him say it. So these globalists, for a long time, um, since the 70s, have openly been talking about um, world population and the problem of population and things they call sustainability, which is really a way to keep the population down. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think they think something's coming. I think they know it's coming because they're planning it. And whatever it is, they feel like they have the need to be able to go underground to escape the worst of it. Um, to me, it seems like they are insanely pushing for nuclear war. If you look at the behavior of the European countries in Ukraine, like they are openly taunting Russia to nuke them. They're trying to get Russia to pull the trigger first. Um, they're behaving totally irrationally. I mean, they don't have any more money to spend. They can't produce. Russia can outproduce, right now, is outproducing all of NATO, including the US, in terms of armaments, in terms of uh, explosives, they have hypersonic missiles that we don't have. I mean, we are totally outgunned, and they stupidly insist on keep on going, keep on going. Like they have lost almost every military-aged man in Ukraine. They're drafting young kids. They're drafting women. There's pictures you can see, videos where they're going into nightclubs and arresting young men and taking them, into military service. I mean, if there was ever a time to say enough's enough, just stop where you are and keep whatever land you've gained and let's try to rebuild Ukraine, that would be now.
Mhm.
Not what Europe's trying to do, saying we're going to have a draft all over Europe to try to push Russia out of Ukraine. I mean, it's insanity. I mean, at some point you got to say it's time to quit and surrender because more people are going to die. It really seems to me like they're trying to provoke Russia into attacking in a
Right,
big
right,
way.
right.
So
Well, I think
yeah,
something's got to start this party. Unfortunately, I think everything at some point does revolve around Israel. What I think actually is going on is, I think Israel is being put in the interrogation chair, and the interrogators showing the spotlight right on them, right? And he's like got both hands on the table, and he's like, tell me who you work for. But I think what's going on a lot with the propaganda, especially the Charlie Kirk incident, there's so much going on that is speed rolling here. I mean, the
yeah,
snowball effect is getting really big with Israel being a player in all of the things that are going on around the world. If it's not the banking system, it's the political
yeah,
system, and it's the connections that Israel has with all these networking countries. It seems like everyone might be turning on Israel. When you look at it, the Prime Minister Netanyahu, when he was at the United Nations not too long ago, I think it was the other day, but he goes in there and starts, talking about some sort of political thing. I didn't watch it, but a lot of the lobbyists and a lot of the people were getting up out of the seats and just
yeah,
ghosting him in
yeah.
his.
And they walked out. Yeah,
They walked out, right? So is this Ezekiel 38 and 39? Is it coming true? And if it is coming true, then we're getting close towards the end here where Revelation might kick off with the idea of breakaway civilizations and the fact that there's cities underground, the fact that there could be not only cities but bunkers where there's this idea of a cataclysm they want to escape. But is that cataclysm, and they know this, is it the wrath of the Lamb? Is it Revelation chapter 6, all the way at the bottom of it? You see that the mighty men, the elites, the captains, all the
hmm
people that you would think would be at the top of that pyramid are wanting to go into the mountains to hide themselves. They're crying for the mountains to hide them from the great and terrible day of the Lamb. It makes me think that this is what we're seeing. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I get where you're coming from, but it seems like they're also trying to hasten it themselves. It's
Mhm.
like they're trying to
Right.
cause war at a level that would depopulate quite a bit of the world, and it doesn't bother them if they can go underground to escape it and come out in a couple years.
Right,
I
right.
don't know. Their actions make no sense. I mean, Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum, former head, um, talked about creating an angrier world. And if you look at Europe right now, they're doing it, but it seems like they are trying to cause war in multiple ways. Just get people riled up and nation against nation kind of thing. Um, it's not rational what's going on to me.
Right, right. It's wild, man. All right, so bring me back. Which number are we on now?
All right, we're on number 6, energy. We're gonna have
Oh,
to
man,
pick
I
up
tell
the
you what, we
pace.
might not get through it all,
We
but
might not get through it. That's
that leaves
okay.
us room to get
Yeah,
you on the show again, maybe
there
do a
we
part
go.
2,
There we
right?
go.
Or just leave it for everyone to go, "Hey, go get the book and check it out yourself."
Yeah, yeah,
So
that'd be cool. Yeah, number 6 is energy, and so what we're talking about here is affordable energy is really the backbone of civilization, and energy prices. I mean, fortunately, in the U.S., at least, gasoline prices are back under control compared to the runaway situation we had. But overall, energy prices are still up. If you look at your electric bill, your heating bill, it's up significantly for most people. In Europe, it's up almost unbearably. I heard that in New Jersey, certain states are really bad for energy costs, but in New Jersey, it's like almost out of control. I think I was hearing it was like the typical bill for just an average home was 800 or 900 a month just for energy,
oh, man.
which that's a lot. But the thing with energy is they're trying to push us toward let's call it non-storable energy. So gas, um, uh, propane, coal, even nuclear, although nuclear is coming back for other reasons, for AI. But to push us away from that and to get us on wind and solar, which is unreliable. It cannot be cranked up to meet demand like coal can be. But it's this whole idea that we can gain tighter control over you if we can limit your energy. If we can force you to get an electric car and then say, oh boy, you know what, the electric grid isn't strong enough. You can only, charge your car once a week, and you can get to work and back, but you're not going to have enough energy to do much else than that. That's just too bad. Freedom of travel um, is all kind of tied together to just raise the cost of living and limit the ability to travel. So by pushing us toward electrical, wind and solar, getting us off the storable, then all that happens. You get that tighter control, and that's all part of bringing the whole system down.
Yeah, energy is a big thing, man. If people are so dependent on the system, energy is one of those things that once that falls, I mean, it can kill people. People can, especially the colder states as
Oh
well,
yeah.
right? I mean, the colder states, obviously, if you have a fireplace, that's pretty good, but I mean, not a lot of people have that luxury.
I was on with another podcaster from Canada, and he was saying that they are trying to do that here. They're trying to get us off gas. He said we have minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter. He said "Uh, they're getting us off gas and trying to push us toward all electrical. And I said, I'll bet they're not at the same time beefing up the electrical grid to handle this massive shift toward electrical power only. And he said, well, they say they will, but they haven't yet. So he's like, they're asking us to jump, and don't worry, the bridge will be there before you land. You'll land on the bridge, not go plummeting to your
Mhm.
death. But he's saying, yeah, it doesn't make sense because they're forcing us the same way up here, and we're in much more danger in the cold climate that they're in. But he's seeing it there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the energy also contributes to if you have a farm, if you have livestock, if you've got all these other things that help you sustain life, the
Right.
energy is there to help you do that. But that's where I think I try to help people understand that Walmart or, our energy systems, everything might not be there one day. So try and figure out some sort of infrastructure for your own home where you can
Exactly.
develop your own ecosystem that survives off of itself. Hopefully when my house is done here in the next 2 months, I'll be able to get out of my property and build these things, and at
Sure.
least have them ready for some sort of high impact event.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't have if your house doesn't run on propane, you could get a propane tank, and you can get 1,000-gallon tank, bury that in the ground, and have a line go into a propane stove, a propane fireplace if you wanted to have it. You can put backup systems, and you can have a propane generator that'll kick on when the power goes off. You can also do pellet stoves. You don't even have to have a chimney for a pellet stove, and you can store pellets. And they're extremely hot. They can heat. You can heat. 30. We have a 3,500 square foot house here. We can heat the whole thing with one pellet stove,
Nice.
using fans as well. And we save almost 50% on our heating bill in the winter doing that. So
Right, right,
it is possible. There are ways, but storable energy options, yeah, and you can get, of course, you can get your own small solar based system as well to supplement your power. But yeah, have backup power, absolutely important.
right, right, man. Yep, yep, yep.
So I'll just say two quick things about energy, just to point out what was happening during the Biden administration. Number one, he canceled the Keystone Pipeline on day one, right, which it hurt America's future oil and gas supply. Um, he also drained 40% of the strategic petroleum reserve right before the midterms while he was in. And much of that oil didn't go to really lower energy prices in the US that much. A lot of it was sold to China. People don't realize it. He drained it and sold it to China and India and other countries. We got maybe half the benefit or something. And then he didn't refill it because now it's too expensive. So day one eliminates the pipeline, eliminates 40% of our strategic reserve. It just shows where his head was, and the book in that chapter gets toward a lot of other things. My point is, the people who are the globalists are working by a playbook, and it's a worldwide shared playbook. And I don't think in terms of Republican or Democrat. I think in terms of globalist or nationalist. And Biden was definitely on the globalist team. His campaign slogan was Build Back Better, which is a globalist phrase. I'll take you to a video in the book with a QR code where you'll see 40 different globalists saying Build Back Better. We have to build it back better. And that was his campaign theme, Build Back Better. He didn't invent it. He took it from the globalists as a way to signal, hey, guys, I'm on board. My administration's on board. We're on Team Globalist. That's just the way it is, like I
Hmm.
said. I'm not left or right, Republican, Democrat. I'm just globalist or nationalist. But anyway, yep. So that takes us to environment number 7. See how far we can get here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is all
Our,
fascinating, man. You really put a lot of research into this. You really have breaking this down very well. I just want to kind of just pause a little bit real
oh,
quick and
thank
just
you.
I appreciate, the amount of work that has gone into this, because there's a lot of high level thinking going on with all of these things. And when you lay it out how you are, it's plugging the information out to the audience so that they can actually start to see these things, so that we can contribute to standing up against these.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
There's the expression red pilled, in the Matrix, take the red pill. I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole is. All I'm
Mhm.
trying to do is show you the truth. And that's what this journey through this book was like for me. Researching it was like this. It was like, oh my gosh, so we're getting into the environment. I learned things I never knew. So the thing was, in the beginning, I said it started with this revelation of the 11 collapse points. These are coming down if we don't do something about it, kind of revelation. And the whole effort was just researching it to see if it was true. I didn't start knowing it was true. I started with that point. These are happening. Go dig in, that's what I'm
Right.
doing.
Right, and I
It was
want everyone
fascinating.
to start doing this, right? Like, let's get
Yes.
off the cell phones and start digging into the real stuff and the objective truths that are out there, right? I think you mentioned that earlier on the show,
Yeah.
if it's written down, if it's there, if it's, tangible, it's objective, right? Like, there's factual evidence behind all this kind of stuff. That's some serious things to build into your itinerary as a human being, because when you go out into the real world and you look at the fabric of reality, you can see things a little bit more clear. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. There's too much at stake for us to hold on to our team A versus team B mentality. I think we have to drop that and just be on, let's just find the truth. That's so critical. Just be a truth seeker and say. So there's a short chapter that's called "Forget What You Know." In other words, forget what you think you know, and just look at some facts, and then develop your own conclusions based on that. And that's how I feel like I've had to become. We have to drop some of our beliefs about Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, woke, not woke. I mean, forget all those labels. Let's just go for the truth and see where it leads, because really our future depends on that. We don't have the luxury of being on a team, really, I feel. We have to learn what's true and do something about it.
Right. I want to ask you this
Mhm.
question pertaining to the government, and we can segue. But do you think that it's what we're seeing with government right now? Because this is a question that a lot of people talk about. There's a lot of people that talk about at my job, plus, just people on the podcast. Do you think it's what we're seeing in our government right now, two wings of the same bird? Is this a good cop, bad cop idea? Or do you actually think that there still is some real people, people trying to do good in government? It's not just all conspiracy and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I do think there's some people trying to do good and doing it imperfectly, with all the limited knowledge and all the struggle and all the infighting and all the deception of people trying to get them off track, competing narratives, competing goals, even within the same side in the same cabinet, let's say. So, in other words, we're still subject to all the pitfalls of human nature and greed and power and all that stuff. But having said that, um, I think we have to take an honest look at how much hell certain people have gone through and are still trying to pull us in a direction that they believe can help save the country. I think there's a whole lot of difference between someone who grew up in politics and came in making 200 grand a year or 150 grand a year and now is worth 50 million, and someone that gave up his salary, became less wealthy for being in office, and that's Trump. Less wealthy, shot at twice, dragged through the courts. How many, Georgia, New York, the FBI, how many people have worked against that person? They don't do that to one of their own. And that's the truth. Like, go find somebody that they did that to. The people they do that to either end up dead or out of office. That's what they did to Kennedy when he went against them. That's what they did to Abraham Lincoln, right? They don't do this to their own. You won't see them do this to their own people on the left. They're protected. Um, I do think that, um, for the most part, um, I think what RFK Jr. is trying to do, I think what Trump's trying to do, as imperfect as it is, I do think it comes from a good place of trying to save the country. Um, no one would be willing to give up and pay the price he's paid unless they really believed in something bigger than his own safety. I mean, it wasn't just him, it was his family too. They've been threatened. You look at like Peter Navarro, they arrest him in an airport, embarrass him, put him in shackles, and take him off, right? Take him to prison. You look at all the people on Trump's side that have gone to prison. You look at the people um, who are trying to speak the truth, who are either thrown in jail or threatened with it. They're all on one side. They're all on one side. Until now, now some justice is coming for some of the genuine crimes that they pulled, right? The difference was they invented crimes to try to take Trump down. They invented crimes to take Peter Navarro down, to take other people in his administration down. This is unlike anything we've seen in the past. They've played hardball. Um, you look at the people who have been doxxed, who have been, I forget what the word is when they get the police to come to your house and kick down the door because they say
Swatted.
swatted. All the
Yeah.
people who have been swatted. What side are they on? They're all on one side. They're all on one side. So, yes, I do think there's people with their imperfections, with their different ideas of how it should work, but I think they are genuinely trying to help this country. I can't prove that, but it's my gut, and I've watched it closely, and I have studied it, and that's my conclusion. You just got to look at what price have they paid and are continuing to pay. Um, it's a high
Right.
price.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts with like Peter Thiel, Palantir,
Yeah.
these people that have
Yeah.
funded that side of the
Yeah.
political spectrum? But then again, that doesn't say that these, you know, that whole everyone in the right side of
Yeah.
politics is in on something here. But what are your
Yeah.
thoughts with Peter Thiel?
It scares me. I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
Yeah.
It's just too much. It's too much power, and I haven't studied him closely, but I've watched enough that it does scare me. The way he answers questions. Um, some of these questions ought to be a lot easier to answer, like this hesitation on things. I just, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of having these multi-billionaires having so much power. Like, I personally like Elon Musk. I get this sense that he's trying to do the right thing, but I also worry about it because he's got his hands in everything that has the power to really turn into a global police state. You know, he's got the satellite system.
Right.
He's got the brain chip, you know. He's got the underground boring company that bores the underground tunnels that go from underground city to underground city, you could say, you know. It's like, what is he not in that's he's got the rocketry, you know what I mean? He's into so much. Is it just because he's a brilliant inventor? Probably. But the power to misuse that is scary. But, you know, I've heard him say, and I believe he meant it. You know, he said, Donald Trump is a good man. He's trying to do what's best for the country. He said something like that. And I read body language. I really study that and voice and everything. It came off as real to me. Like he believes that. He believes that when he says it. I look at what he gave up with the Doge thing to try to um, put some sense back into the spending, to cut the spending. And I look at how angry he got when the next bill came through Congress, the so-called big beautiful bill that just like threw everything he did in the toilet. Yeah, we saved money over here, but we spent twice as much over here, and how he just went off. And I believe it was a genuine thing. He was just, if I could say the word, pissed off because he just spent 6 months of his life in bringing a team in and getting the discipline to try to teach us how to cut costs. And we just like threw it in his face and he had all he could stand and he like stormed off. I think that was
Mhm.
all real. To me, that seemed like a real human emotion and anger. I know. So is he a good man? I kind of think he is, but he scares me because he's got so much power. You know, but yeah, Peter Thiel, it's similar. It's just too much power with AI. I mean, if these people were all genuinely God-fearing people that felt they were going to be held accountable by a just judge, meaning God someday, that they were going to have to stand before him and give an account of their life, but some of these people are atheists or they don't have that anchor. And so I get worried about where they're taking this thing, you know, what they believe about the human race. And should we become part android, part, you know, part machine,
Yeah.
part man? I don't
Yeah.
trust it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say, 'cause if you look at what they believe that in a way they're their own god, right?
Yeah.
And with that comes the transhumanism idea where they don't want to they first of all, they don't subscribe to the biblical ideas of God and the
Hmm.
fact that one day they'll have to go up, to the throne and have accountability for everything that they've done here on earth. They want to actually dodge that. They don't want to go through that. So therefore they're trying to come up with things like genetic editing and trying to live forever and
Yeah.
all these other ideas of transferring human consciousness into AI, bots and all the ideas of trying to live or establish some sort of eternity here
Yeah.
so that they can rule here. And it's
Yeah.
so funny. This goes all the way back to like the Genesis 6 idea because it says, where the Nephilim, right? And these were the men of renown and the mighty men of the earth. Um, and I believe these were people that were worshipped at some point. Well, I think they also had that part of that bloodline that was now demigod, which now they were in a way eternal. So because it makes sense now why God would limit man's time here on earth to 120 years.
Yes.
And he does it right in that time. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, that makes kind of sense now where, again, they're trying to do this in the way it makes sense in society in our timeline,
Yeah.
not something similar to how it was way back in the day before the flood, but they're trying to establish an eternal utopia here for themselves, while maybe the smaller or the low income, or maybe they want to create some sort of general low class, which everyone's considered low class. There's no more middle class, right?
Hmm.
We can see that kind of dividing and migrating to that idea now
Yeah.
with the prices and inflation and all of that. But with the low class now, they can have some sort of slavery system for the people to mine the elites their energy and all the resources that they need to make that happen, if that makes sense. Have you ever seen
Sure.
the movie with Matt Damon, Elysium?
Yes, that's a great
Okay.
movie. I
So
love that movie. Yeah.
that is like a comparison that I'm trying to at least illustrate here for people to understand that.
Oh,
Oh, and by
yeah.
the way, that was a pentagram in the sky. It was a pentagram. It was a station in the sky for the elites where they lived, and it
I
was in the
never
shape of a
noticed that. That's
pentagram.
shape of oh my gosh. Now I'm
Yeah.
gonna go back and watch it again.
You gotta go back and watch it because it's crazy, but if they can create some sort of dystopian world here and mine and harvest our energy, which our energy makes resources and all this kind of stuff to fund and build the things for them to establish their godhood, their deification, all that. Maybe that's kind of the ultimate plan here. Because when you have Peter Thiel on some sort of interview, he was on a podcast and he was questioned things about the Antichrist. It came off kind of crazy, right? Like it was kind of
Oh,
wild, the
yeah.
answers. And that's the idea that he didn't really know how to answer, do you care about the survival of humanity? And it's like he really
Yeah.
had to think about that one.
Yeah, exactly. That should be pretty easy to answer, you would think. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, man. So, but brother, this has been a pretty fun show. I really thank you for rucking it out with me and testing the waters of a lot of different things that we got into. I really thank you so much for the investigations and the research and the knowledge that you were able to feed my audience and myself, but also to be able to plant seeds out there. And I know we only got halfway through some of these pillars, but that leaves us room for a future episode to do a
Yeah.
part two, and something I can look forward to, and hopefully you as well.
Oh,
But I,
sure.
I want to do this. The floor is yours. If you want to share a positive message with the audience after all of the crazy things we talked about, now's a few minutes, and then we'll get ready to close with where the audience can support you the most.
Sure. So, yeah, I kind of went on a journey with this book myself in terms of like the emotional and faith experience that kind of resulted along the way for this along this way for me. Um, at first, learning all these things made me apprehensive. It was like the more I dug, the more I was able to see that this really is a high level globalist plan to try to take down these pillars so that upon the ashes of that destruction, they could usher in a new world order, which they've been planning for a long time. And that is, like Klaus Schwab said, it's 2030. You own nothing, and somehow you're happy. But there's all kinds of other things that go with that, and seeing how it all fits together, it was on initially it was kind of intimidating. Like, is there hope? And the more I thought about it, the more I felt like, you know what, this whole thing was shown to me, like I said in the beginning, so that there will be pushback. Because once your eyes are opened, you almost have a visceral reaction to this, like, no way am I letting this happen for the sake of my kids and my grandkids, or even myself for that matter. It's like, we have to do something about it. And I think that's the red pill journey, right? That is the journey. And I would say, when you dive in with both feet, you're going to hit this tipping point, and this is what happened to me. You hit this tipping point where you go from brace for impact to hell no, I'm going to do something about it. Even if I can only move the ball 1 inch on the field toward the goal, I'm going to do my little part to move it that inch. And I think if we all take that attitude, um, I believe, and I have reason to believe this because I felt the shift in my own attitude. I honestly think that once we make that decision, I am going to be a force for good. I'm going to do what I can, no matter how little or how much that might be. But I'm going to do everything I can to educate people and learn to push back and help them start to protect themselves and put pressure on politicians and on local school boards and everything in between to do something to move this in the right direction. I mean, we're already seeing it. We had a past government that had the border wide open. Now we have one that has it closed. We had egg prices at $10 a dozen because they were killing all the chickens with fake PCR tests and saying you got to call the herd because they decided it had some disease that didn't exist. And then the next administration came in and said, that's BS, stop right now. The egg prices come back, fuel prices come down. Things can get better, but we have to have that. We have to be educated enough to speak up and make things happen. And that is the energy that I'm feeling over this. And I'm starting to see other people too when they read the book.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, thank you so much, man. And on top of that, we are the 99%. We have some pretty we have power, believe it or not, right?
Sure.
Like us as a people, we really do have more authority than they make us think, right?
Yeah, they want us fighting with each other instead of fighting them.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
we need to get out of that mindset. We need to unplug from that so that it's not even a part of our being. And, with all of that, love, live, right? Charity, all that kind of stuff towards others. And I think these things that we want for our world will start to fall into place.
Yes.
And pushback is real, right? It's kind of like a fight, right? It's where you're bigger than the other guy, but then when he kind of sticks you and he gets you good, you're like, "Oh, no." Like, and that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it in a violent or physical idea. I'm just saying that when we're able to actually stand up out of the chair and look the opponent eye to eye,
Yep.
that's something that we have the ability to do, right? But we could do it in a lot of good ways, a lot of positive ways, a lot of fruitful ways, right? Um, and so, because it's been something too where there's just so much negativity, there's so much revelation talk, there's so much all this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all about it. I've had some wild, crazy visions and dreams in my past, where I've kind of seen these things play out. So
Mhm, mhm.
but I'm trying to just combat those ideas, the propaganda, the negativity, and all that energy with just a lot more positive
Exactly.
reinforcement, man. And I
Exactly.
appreciate you for coming on. And again, we got to do a part two. Everyone's going to be expecting it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Real quick, where can they support you the most? And you know, all that.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go to globalcollapsebook.com, globalcollapsebook.com. Check it out. You can learn all about the book there. You can also there's a tab for the 11 pillars. You can click that and see what the 11 pillars are that we're talking about in the book. The book also talks about what is globalism, who are the globalists, what are their goals. On the back end of the book, there's like solutions. What can we do about this? There's a section on personal resilience. There's a section on building your faith. There's a section on spreading the word and helping open the eyes of other people. But check out the book at globalcollapsebook.com. You can get the links to get to buy it on Amazon again, or you can get a signed copy for about the same price. It also comes in bundles of 3, 6, 12, and 18 to help spread the word. The more you get, the lower the price, of course. There's free shipping that kicks in with 6 or more as well. But check it out. You'll learn a lot. And again, the book has 175 QR codes. It's a multimedia experience. In addition to QR codes, there's imagery all through it. That's the Mockingbird Media. There's a mockingbird there, but there's dozens of illustrations. So between the illustrations and QR codes, it really is an easy read. It's an enjoyable read. If you have people you're looking to open their eyes, great book. Holidays are coming, get your Christmas shopping done maybe.
That's right, and I wanna just kinda encourage this as well, man. This is why I started this podcast. I mean, honestly, it was God telling me to do something, and by starting that, I felt He wanted to take me on a journey,
Mhm.
and with that journey, I've had many guests on, awesome, awesome guests. They've kept me afloat. They've kept me above water, right, with this show. They've also done something that's something I can't it's it it's a part of the journey, so you can't kind of recreate it. right? It's how it flows, and that's receiving golden nuggets from each and every guest. And you've definitely supplied those to me today. There's some
Oh,
things I
good.
can put into my bag and go about my day, and where I can construct more ideas and thoughts pertaining to things that I'm just ready to start to tell people, because I go on shows as well, and there's little things that I pull and I shout out people and all this kind of stuff, because it's fun, man. We're all kind of coming
Yeah.
together, and we're there's a hive mind between all of us. It's just we're each playing each individual part, I think, because we can't know everything.
No, no way.
Um,
But
but
courage is contagious, right? And we kind of
yeah,
encourage each other. And yeah, just one last thing I wanted to say real quick. You talked about staring evil in the eye. The dedication to this book is like 3 short lines. To those who speak the truth at great personal cost, and to all who face evil unflinchingly, you are my inspiration.
oh, that's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, Allan Paul Roberts, everybody. Links will be in the description below for everything that he's got in his arsenal that he can provide out to the public. But brother, thank you again, man. This was a lot of fun. But we're gonna get ready to move over to the next segment.
All right, man. Thanks so much. I look forward to it. Take care.
All right, God bless, buddy.
God bless, Stephen. Bye bye.
Allan Paul Roberts, everybody in the house. We got the biblical hitman debrief here, folks. What an episode. I know it kind of got a little lengthy there. We were going over each and every pillar he was getting into. We got up to number 6. We were starting number 7, and we didn't get through it, but that's why we're going to have a part 2. Be tuned in for or stay tuned for a part 2 coming in the near future. And hopefully I can get that set up. The schedule is packed, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot of guests that are going to be hitting the show. But hey, thank you again, Alan. It was a lot of fun. You've done a lot of research, and what I was kind of awesome is, a lot of the things he was getting into is obviously we've been. I'm sure a lot of the audience has dug into it as well. They've dug into these kind of concepts. They've seen the information that he was distributing to us. Right. I mean, obviously, a lot of crazy things took place from 2020 to where we're at now, and within that whole time period, it's just every year there's just constant things going on. There's a whole list of things that we need to keep our eyes, pierced on. And the whole idea of a new world order is not something that's new. It's old. It's biblical, right? This comes from the idea of a one world currency, religion, and government. Who's going to take place with that? Who's going to run that? And that's where I fall into the belief this is the Antichrist. This is the foundation, the system, the Atlantean system that's going to be built for this king to come here and to reign on this earth, to rule over all, and to call himself God, right? Like there is this apotheosis ritual that will take place, I believe. And I think that this is where we get the abomination of desolation. Why do we see a movement towards the building of the third temple? And now I understand there's a different eschatology gets crazy, right? It gets crazy. And the eschatological views are splitting a little bit. Everyone's kind of everywhere, right? I put everything on the table. So I'm definitely going to at least keep my eyes on the idea of the third temple getting built. And if anyone's going to walk in that thing and say that they're God, because now we can kind of see that prophecy is fulfilling at that point. Now, are they in the midst of trying to accelerate and conduct these things like the scripture is saying? Like are they fulfilling prophecy on their own terms? But does that not I mean, does that mean that prophecy should be thrown out the window? I don't necessarily think so. I think that we need to consider that, hey, that is how the prophecy gets fulfilled, is that these elites, these mighty men, the merchants and the captains of the world are the ones that are trying to bring this kind of order to society, to the whole world, flat or round. Okay, like they're moving towards it. The surveillance state, the technocratic takeover, the technocracy is all coming into play with all of these players that are on the field. We can see it with Palantir. We could see it with artificial intelligence, Project Stargate. I think personally that there's players involved in both sides of the wings of government here that are trying to make this happen. I'm not completely dogmatic that, you know, all everyone is evil within the government, but I do think that these principalities, powers, and the wickedness in high places are the ones that are governing and controlling the ideas that we have today as government, right? Like these egregores of government. Like it's just, I think that the principalities are still here, and they're dictating the decisions, and they're navigating the governments to go which routes that they're trying to go. They're influencing mankind, and they're using people as chess pieces to get these ideas fulfilled for their return of some sort. And it's an interesting idea, the return of the gods. Like, what does that even mean? But I think that the days of Noah will come at some point in our lifetime. And so, but folks, my goodness, what an episode. Listen, if you liked it that much, just rewind it back, run it. All right. But listen, I want to show appreciation to the audience, to the listeners, to everyone that's out there that's supporting this show by giving it a chance, by giving it a listen, a view, whatever you're doing out there to contribute your time to this show. I'm super thankful. I'm thankful for each and every one of you. I wish I knew all of your names. I know some names from the YouTube, from the comments on audio, all this kind of stuff. I only know you by your username, but I just want to say I appreciate everyone that is pitching in their effort to keep this show afloat and to supporting it in any way that they can. And there's love for that for y'all. I really, really, I just appreciate you guys. I really do. And, there's a lot of love in my heart that goes out for y'all. But listen, if it's your first time or you're returning, you've stuck in with us this long, you know where to go. Head on over to YouTube, smash that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends, and also drop comments, baby, because I want to hear the opinions of the audience. And that's the only place on the video side of things that we do where I can directly engage with everyone. But hey, listen, if you're not on the video side, head on over to the audio. Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can consume all of your audio content. Please drop comments. If you like the show, drop a 5-star review, hit that notification bell, and a follow, and you'll be notified when we get episodes out there on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. But that as for right now, that's the schedule, and I'm sticking to it. This has been so much fun. I'm glad y'all are here with me through this journey, and I appreciate and love every single one of you folks. Get some sleep, have fun, stay safe, be blessed. Love you. See you next time.